All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope all of you are well and safe at home or at work remotely. So, I'm Crizella Zetin from Brancas, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. As we're all too familiar by now, we know that the current pandemic has forced many of us to stay at home in 2020 and even to this day. And actually, as of today, we're still pushing a lot of our activities to be at limited frequencies, a lot of our businesses to be working remotely, and everyday functions to be pushed back. So we've seen how this has also impacted a lot of the industries, including the financial sector. So today what we'd like to explore is what this has meant for the financial sector and institutions, and how have some of these institutions responded and supported their customers with the challenges of the ongoing pandemic. Today, we've invited panelists from Cebuana Lhuiller Rural Bank and CIMB Bank Philippines to share more about their experiences in 2020 and how they've faced and overcome their open banking and digital transformation challenges in the age of COVID-19. We'll be asking them some questions, insights, and learnings from last year. And then we'll also open the floor for questions from the audience and as raised during the registration. Now, for the benefit of the audience, of course, we'd like to share a bit more about the two organizations that we've invited today. So, Cebuana Lhuiller Rural Bank is a bank that provides opportunities to empower micro, small, and medium enterprises to grow their businesses through microfinancing, among other banking transactions. However, in 2019, Cebuana Lhuiller Rural Bank, through its banking arm, Cebuana Lhuiller, unveiled the Cebuana Lhuiller Micro Savings Account, which currently serves as the company's platform to provide Filipinos with a more convenient and affordable means to save their hard-earned money. This has helped achieve financial inclusion by closing the gap between a savings account and the unbanked Filipinos. And this has continuously grown through their digital online platforms or channels such as the eCebuana mobile banking app. Meanwhile, CIMB Bank Philippines is an all-digital, mobile-first, and multi-awarded bank that has onboarded over 3 million customers since its establishment in December 2018. In doing so, CIMB Bank Philippines became the most awarded digital bank in the country, securing 25 awards, including the International Finance's 2020 Best New Digital Bank Philippines and Global Banking and Finance Review's 2021 Best Digital Bank. So we have quite a very interesting panel joining us for today. And with that, I'd like to welcome and introduce our first panelist, Mr. NJ Villafuerte. So hi NJ. NJ is currently the head of digital strategy at Cebuana Lhuiller Rural Bank, and he's responsible for taking care of eCebuana along with the other applications and platforms of Cebuana Lhuiller as head of the digital frontier. An advocate of financial inclusion, he develops and innovates systems to empower all Filipinos to have digital access to financial services anytime and anywhere. Hi, NJ. Good afternoon.
Hi, Kitch. Thank you for that introduction. Excited for today's session.
All right. I'm sure I know you have a presentation coming up, but just to give some headway, I'd like to understand. I mean, I'm sure as head of digital strategy, you were at the forefront, at the front line of handling some of the challenges that might have surfaced with the rise of the pandemic last year. So perhaps you can share more about CLRB, your experiences or learnings from last year, and maybe how this has helped you align your strategy for 2021.
Yeah, thank you for that, Kitch. So, would like to share, as Kitch mentioned, last 2019, we launched the micro savings product, basically as part of our effort for financial inclusion and ensure that every Filipino, whatever the market, can have access to financial services, can have access to the bank. However, the pandemic hit us in 2020, but we did not let that hinder us from extending our services to the Filipino people. But instead, we took it as a challenge, and it allowed us to come up with more innovative solutions, which I'll talk to you about later, and also allow us to to achieve where we are to get today. Actually, Kitch, I would like to share the good news. I just received message that we now have 5 million micro savings account holders. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
So that's
Congratulations as
good
well.
news
Yeah.
despite the pandemic. So yeah, this is a show of our commitment that pandemic or otherwise, we are committed to serving the Filipino people, and we are committed to enabling financial services anytime and anywhere.
All right. Yeah, so thanks for that, NJ. I think you have a presentation, so please feel free to go ahead and talk a bit more about some of the key insights that you shared.
Oh, all right. Okay. So okay, got it. Okay, so thanks for that, Kitch. So, just on the pandemic, the pandemic was hard for us. There was a lot of changes that involved society, and we're now living in what we call the new normal. So, Cebuana Lhuiller, like most financial institutions, took a lot of key learnings and used it to pivot the activities and services that Cebuana Lhuiller offers to our customers. So three key learnings that we had from the pandemic. First is that our customers need to go digital. With social distancing in place, access to Cebuana Lhuiller branches is definitely not as easy as before. And we realized that account opening for the Cebuana micro savings account, which is still completed at the branch, will no longer work under the new normal. Secondly, even at home, our customers still need to transact. And since physical currencies transmit the virus, more and more of our customers don't want to handle cash at this point. Then on that front as well, even at home, our customers still need to be able to send or receive money, pay their bills, and shop online. And then third, but definitely not the least key learning, is that our customers are still looking for ways to invest, still looking to move their money, and there has been significant shifts to e-commerce. So with these three key learnings in mind, sorry, next slide, please. All right. With these three key learnings in mind, we use this to empower the eSabuana mobile app. So the eSabuana mobile app, just for everybody's the Cebuana mobile app is the banking app of Cebuana Lhuiller that is powered by the Cebuana Lhuiller micro savings account. So with this app, our micro savings account holders can now do their transactions, do their send money transactions online or through our mobile app that's available in the Google Play Store, the Huawei App Gallery, and then of course the Apple App Store. So with the three key learnings, just going back to the three key learnings, it allowed us to fast track the deployment of new features. So in October 2020, we rolled out eSabuana 2.0 or the all new eSabuana with the following key features. Number one, fully digital onboarding. Now, we don't need our customers to go to the branch to open an account. Instead, they can do it at the comforts of their own home as long as they have their IDs and and can complete the digital onboarding journey through their mobile devices. That's first. Secondly, we also rolled out a QR code system. So now you can scan and upload QR codes so that you can send money from one micro savings to another micro savings account. And then later on, this year we're expanding that QR code service to allow payments as well as sending money to other institutions as part of the Isabuana improvements. Third, which we're rolling out within the year, actually within this quarter, is the ability to renew your sangla, or for all of our pawning customers who are still afraid to go to the branch but have outstanding pawn transactions. We're rolling out that service for you so that you can renew your sangla through the Isabuana app. Then fourth feature that we rolled out for Isabuana is three kinds of send money. First kind is sending to our sending to other micro savings accounts or our closed loop funds transfer. Second is our send money to other banks. Do you know that Cebuana Lhuiller Bank is a member of InstaPay and can send and receive money from other banks or to other banks using that InstaPay rail? And then third, but definitely not the least, is our Pera Padala service that's trusted by millions of Filipinos here and abroad. So with eCebuana, you can also send money to our 2,500 Cebuana Lhuiller branches for pickup and to our 25,000 partner doors. So that allows our Casabuanas to be able to, um, send money to their loved ones abroad, to their loved ones in the provinces from the comforts of their own home. Next is that we enabled the ability to pay your bills with the eCebuana app. Where we currently have 40 billers right now, but we're expanding that through our partnership with BankNet and other institutions as well. We also enabled our Casabuanas to buy load. We have Smart, Sun, and Globe, Touch Mobile, Talk and Text, all of these networks that our Casabuanas need to be able to communicate with their loved ones. Yeah. And then we're also rolling out within the quarter our buy insurance service. So we want our Casabuanas to feel safe and secure with our micro insurance products, which we will be making available to our micro savings account holders. Then, of course, we'd like to reward our loyal customers. So we're rolling out user rewards as well for eCebuana this year. So before I pass the floor back to you, Kitch, I was talking about a key learning on our customers needing to go to the branch to complete an account opening, right? So
Right,
we
right.
rolled out fully digital onboarding, and I'd like to share a quick video to show everybody how they can open an account with the eCebuana app. Sorry, please go ahead. Thank you. So as you can see, no, with the pandemic, we took it as a challenge to to improve our onboarding so that our customers no longer need to go to the branch. And as you've seen from the video, it's very easy. 10 steps or less, you can already open a micro savings account from the comfort of your own home. And then you can enjoy the services that the eCebuana app and the Cebuana Lhuiller group uh, offers all of our Cacebuanas and all of our potential Filipino customers here and abroad.
All right. Thank you for that, NJ. Very interesting discussion and video as well. Very exciting to see all of those features in the eCebuana mobile app and even on the onboarding side. So quite innovative also considering that the previous, I guess, practices or focus of Cebuana before was more traditional, right? I would say. So all right, I think I'm sure our audience has some interesting questions as well. I know I have. But before that, let me now introduce, of course, our second panelist for today. Our second speaker for today is Mr. Lester Cruz from CIMB Bank Philippines. He is currently the head of segments and growth. And what he does is he's responsible for driving the overall growth of the bank through effective management of key partnership and pursuit of strategic opportunities. He is also responsible for developing customer segments to create customer and partner solutions, oversees the enhancement of the bank's mobile application and digital channels, and of course, leads the continuing transformation and innovation in customer experience. So, hi, Lester. Good afternoon. Thank you also for joining us today.
Hey, good afternoon, Keach, and to our viewers. Thank you, for spending your lunchtime with us. And NJ, thank you for the insights that you've just shared. I'm very glad to be here today.
All right. Okay. So for you, Lester, I think what I'd like to ask as a first question is, with CIMB Bank being an all digital mobile first entity here, maybe you can share more about CIMB's premise, insights, even successes since joining the market or entering the market in 2018.
Sure. Keach. I think first and foremost, the problem of financial inclusion had existed way before the pandemic has actually hit us, right? So the primary purpose really of CIMB coming into the Philippines is to be able to propagate really and provide not just any ordinary banking solution, but a meaningful one. We wanted to make sure that whatever time is an effort is spent by potential customers or users would actually be resulting into a service that could actually be meaningful and would be useful in their day-to-day lives, and not just in simple cash transactions, right? And we've not come to the Philippines to only serve, by the way, the unbanked, right? I think I wanted to dispel a myth that or at least a notion that most people have today, that anything that is digital is associated to the mass market. That is
Right.
very
Yeah.
untrue, right? What CIMB want to be able to do is provide a solution that would be, we call it internally, segment agnostic. It does not matter in which socioeconomic class you belong to. I mean, you can be the affluent, emerging affluent, or you can be, you could be a Juan de la Cruz, a man from the street, whom we would definitely want to provide a meaningful solution for their banking needs, and with the hope that and the objective of really, so to speak, leveling the playing field. That
Right.
that banking
Of course.
doesn't
Yeah.
become associated to to the well-endowed people, because at the end of the day, it's a service, right? So
Correct.
that's what we've been focused on in the last a little over a couple of years.
Hmm. All right, thank you for that. And very interesting point. I like the idea that digital finance or financial services should not be specific or could be segment agnostic indeed. Um, I believe that you also have a few more points that you wanted to share over a few slides. I think we would like to cast some of that slides just for discussion points as well.
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to go through that, right?
All right, please go ahead, Lester.
Okay. If we move on to the next slide, please. Yeah. So the number that you're seeing in the screen is not is not a new number. Like it's real, right? That every 7 out of the 10 people that you come by in the street actually don't have a bank account, right? Which is sad, right? And obviously, there are various reasons on why such is the case. In which the top four of those we are I'm sharing in this screen, and it's staggering to know that 44% of the eligible population for a bank account don't feel that they have enough money, and which it is true with the kind of requirements that financial services providers typically require today. So the maintaining balance, the document, by the way, is another hurdle that people have to to go above for them to be able to open an account. I think conventionally, customers have been required, at least a couple of IDs, and so sometimes a one by one picture, just to be able to, to open a bank account, which makes it difficult because a good part of the population don't even have a single ID that is valid and acceptable by the financial institution, right? And comes as well the fees. So bottom line, it's difficult to open a bank account. It requires some level of financial commitment for you to be able to maintain it. You don't gain much of it, particularly on interests and other perks or privileges that you'd enjoy for maintaining a relatively smaller amount in the account, and plus you get charged fees. Put that all together, and the requirement to be present in a bank, in a bank branch for you to be able to open an account, especially at the time of pandemic, makes it close to impossible for us to be, chipping off, percentage by percentage, that's 71%, to just make it inclusive for more people, right? So if we can move to the next slide, please. Yep. So this is our, this was our go-to market, strategy. So I presented the constraints, the problems, and the concerns that customers do face in the Philippines. And when we entered, first and foremost, we had to address the difficulty of establishing a bank account. So it says there in the screen 10 minutes, but really, if you're savvy enough, it depends on how quickly you type in your mobile app. It could be much less, right? When we also started, the interest rate offer that we provided is about 8 times of what a typical savings account is offering in the market, and we doubled down on that. And today we offer as much as 16 times, for really small amounts that that people would be keeping with CIMB. It doesn't have to be like millions of pesos or hundred thousands of pesos for them to be entitled with a respectable interest rate. And obviously we don't require any maintaining balances, right? I mean, if people could start off with 50 pesos, 20 pesos, if that's what's what they have and what they're comfortable to put, then be it, right? And we don't charge fees as well. I think if there's one line in our P&L that somehow is not, maybe we purposely omitted when we were setting up the bank, is actually fees. We've not been charging fees for for as long as we've been around. And obviously, what good is a digital proposition if you're not going to be 24/7? So that is that is how we package and how we had intended to enter the market, with the sole purpose to disrupt and really proliferate differentiated, the operative word being the differentiated digital banking model. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is an interesting insight, and we find much fulfillment in this insight that we have gathered when we've done a survey across our customer base so some time back. We found out that 30% of CIMB's deposit customers are first-time bank account holders, meaning they've never had a bank account before, right? So typically most institutions would go after the customers would probably bring in the the most sum of deposits, but us, it makes it significantly or considerably different, right? That we're actually accomplishing the goal of financial inclusion. And to add to that, I guess part of being segment agnostic, I also wanted to talk about the other 70%. Does it mean that you already have a bank account? Services could not improve, right? And we've come up with various programs to really make it meaningful and encourage customers to to make the most out of what they've had, what they have, and on top of the interest rates, no fees, and all the other things that I've mentioned, we've also provided um, you know free protection in the form of insurance. So we have wrapped our deposit products with free insurance. Customers don't even need to do anything, right? They just need to keep some balance with us, and maybe so some minimal transactional requirements on a monthly basis to encourage the behavior of saving, and they will be entitled to all these benefits. And we have every intention to to continue to do that. And likewise, if you see on the bottom part of the image on the right side, we've also purposely targeted as well the younger bunch of our adult population between ages of 18 to 25. We believe that starting early, building the discipline of savings and having the right financial awareness would bring us a long distance as we as they age and as they mature and as they progress in their lives. Next slide, please. This one, another thing that we're really proud of in CIMB. For some reason, when people talk about financial inclusion, at least in the Philippines, it somehow the conversation somehow is narrowed down to savings account, which our view in CIMB, definitely not the case. Having a savings account is just the beginning, right? True financial inclusion should allow customers who not just need but also want to have access to all the other financial services that they would need through the course of their lives. And we're proud to to share this afternoon that 70% of CIMB's successful loan applicants are first time to have bank loans. Imagine that, right? So even before the pandemic, first time bank borrowers, and I could relate. I could not too long ago when I was trying to apply for my first credit facility, the outcome didn't when I was much younger wasn't so good, right? So now before the pandemic, it was already hard as it is for first time borrowers to even gain credit, much so in the pandemic. And I'm openly sharing that even post pandemic, the kind of credit that we still continue to grant credit to to a broad range of borrowers, right? Of which comprising a lot of them first time, and that is also why we are encouraging the proper behavior, part of the financial inclusion. We return back. You behave properly, you eliminate the risk of the bank by paying on time. Hey, we owe it to you. We will provide you some some encouragement for you to continue maintaining your credit, because a lot of people don't know that you're, at least in Philippines, you only have a single credit history that you carry through the rest of your of your life. And if you mess it up at the beginning, at the younger stage, then that's going to cause you some trouble as you go along. Can we move to the next slide, please? Right. CIMB as well. I think part of, and this may be relevant to the open banking discussion, which I think would come up with the question and answers. Right. CIMB is partner centric, where we're not overhung and really caught up in having to build everything ourselves. Right. But we're happy to integrate ourselves in which ecosystem or platform it makes sense, not just for the bank, but more so for the customers that we're trying to gain reach. And the names or the images that you see in the screen are some of the few partners that that we have enabled in our platform to really make the solution more robust, right? By adding, cashing in a or making deposits in a in a convenience store, I think it's not it's not a usual thing. It's not a usual thing back in the past. But today you go to to a convenience store not just to buy hot dogs. You can make deposits as well, and bills payment and all those things, and that we already know that before the pandemic there was there was a need for us to digitize some of the processes and allow remote operation of these things. After the pandemic has hit, then then it kind of reaffirmed really the need and then the use for these things, right? So I'm down to my few more slides, but if you can move on to the next, please. this one is, this is very important. This came out from the BSP, right? And I was like, well, first time I saw it, I was also quite surprised. I knew that there were some financial literacy concerns that the country had to overcome, but I didn't know at that time or sometime back that it was this bad. That 88% of the adult Filipinos could only answer 3 of the 7 most basic questions about financial literacy, right? And 2% of Filipinos could answer all the basic, all the 7. Imagine there's only 2 out of every 100. Oh man, if it was if it was my college course, right? I mean, you would see that only 2 are passing the course, right? For a 7-question quiz, right? So this is sad, right? And this is precisely the reason why we were actually triggered to consistently come up with meaningful videos and financial literacy campaigns to really educate. And we try to break it down bits and pieces to not make it so complex. After all, imagine there are only 44% of Filipinos who could actually compute interest. Imagine, I never thought of that there's less than 1 out of every 2 persons who can actually compute the rate that we're, that is actually being applied to whatever, financial transaction that they have, right? So if you can move to the next slide, please. So this is it. I've mentioned already where we're pushing the videos and the lessons, and it's actually well received by the market, right? And I guess down to my last slide. If you can go to the next, please. We are humbled more than really being proud to have received 35 international awards in over 3.5, with over 3.5 million customers, right? Not because we're not excited with the awards that we've received, but more so it is a validation that we are actually walking or traversing towards the right direction, right? We don't build things in CIMB to win awards. We build things that are worth winning awards because it makes sense for the people and ultimately the customers that we try to serve, right? And I think that's it for me. The next slide. I mean, if you guys want to continue to to get this financial literacy stuff, all the programs that that are truly very beneficial to our customers, please follow us to our social media platforms, and I hope you'd find the stuff that we put there interesting. You can interact with us. You can give us feedback. We listen to you, and that's it for me, Keach. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Lester, for that very interesting discussion. I think, I definitely appreciated as well the statistics that you shared. I think similar also to what NJ shared in terms of his learnings during the pandemic. I think there's still a lot more opportunity and more ground to cover when it comes to financial inclusion. I mean, with the starting point, not really just enabling a lot of them to start up their own savings account, but really educating them and building on the financial literacy as well, right? Along the way. It's not just one step, but a journey indeed for everyone, for both the unbanked and also for everyone, whether it's your first bank account, or as you mentioned, Lester, you already have an existing one and you just want to have an improvement on your banking experience as well. So thank you again for that. I think a lot of our audiences also a lot of our audience and participants appreciated the presentations provided. So now that we've covered a bit of that ground, I think we can move on to open the floor with some of the questions that were raised by our participants upon registration. And again, also to our audience, please feel free to raise questions right now or live. I will try to address them as much as possible as well. But for now, I think we can move on to our first question. And this is something that I'd like to post for both participants or both our panelists. So we've seen that both CLRB and CIMB have already introduced some digital financial services or open banking initiatives on in the market, right? But I'd like to ask, what do you still see as the challenges in the Philippines market, whether it's on the consumer side or on the industry side, in terms of adopting open banking practices or at least making financial services accessible to everyone? Yeah, maybe
Uh,
NJ, you can take on that one also as
yeah,
first.
Kitch, thank you for that. Um, so can I just go back a little bit to the slide number 2, Shaf? Can we share that slide? So,
Give me a second, yeah.
all right. Because anyway, while we're waiting for that, Kitch, thank you for this question. For the participant who asked this question, the primary challenge that we had with driving Cebuana to the next level is consumer education. As mentioned, and I think Lester and I share the same sentiment in this. A lot of Filipinos are still underbanked or unbanked, and we'd like to shift them towards banking. And with this mindset in mind, sorry, second slide. Yeah, okay. With this mindset in mind, what we did to address this is to always think consumer first. We consulted our Casabuanas, we consulted people who engage with us on Facebook, asking them what are the things you want, what are the things you need, and then with these answers in mind, with these insights in mind, we allowed. We use this to pivot Cebuana to be able to address their number one on the ground concerns, but at the same time educate them that if you need to do this, there is a specific service for you, and that's what I'm sharing on the slide right now. There is a service for you, we and this app, all of the features that we add, all of the services that we add, it's all about you. It's all about what you need, and all about what we can do for you in terms of banking and in terms of services that we offer.
All right, thank you for that, NJ. Lester, any other points to add in terms of what you still see as challenges in adopting these services or open banking initiatives from the
Sure.
perspective of CIMB? Yeah.
Sure. I think some of which on the, particularly on the financial services, I've already uncovered during the presentation. The difficulty in opening, an account. I mean, it's a task in itself, right? At least for most of the other providers, right? The meaningfulness and the value, and then likewise the financial awareness, right? So I think the third is one thing that I think is still a challenge that we want to be able to overcome. When the pandemic struck, it was solidified the need, for financial transactions or whatever transactions to be done remotely, right? I mean, because especially now, and a lockdown, another lockdown ensuing. I mean, it's clear, right? But the idea of having, right, the need to have a disciplined, savings, or call it investment, is still a concept that is just beginning to sink into the Filipino people. The next of which would actually be the need for protection, right? And the third piece is credit. A lot of people, don't realize that credit, if used, properly, if secured properly from the right provider, could make a whole lot of difference in their lives, right? And when I say access to credit, it's not the I lend you 1,000, give it back to me 1,500 in 30 days, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think those are amongst the challenges that jointly I then join all the other players out there, digital or traditional, to really focus in solving for these things. As for the open banking, it's really the preparedness. It's clear. I can build the most awesome solution, but where would I connect if all the other organizations or institutions around me are not prepared, right? So, and obviously the open, strange, no? Open banking, openness, the openness of all other institutions, both bank and non-bank, to invest, resources towards developing, a solution. Oh, I mean, that is a big hurdle, but I hope soon enough, the realizations come and, developments come through, because, then the next thing after those have come is actually the critical mass. And to our listeners, and, and to your family, friends, and all the people, I encourage you to really try out whatever solution is being thrown out there. Because without the critical mass, none of the nice solutions that that NJ and myself or all the others are talking about would be sustainable, right? So make the most advantage out of that, and hopefully, if you guys continue to use, I will say, use and abuse and really stress test the stuff that we throw your way, hopefully it would become the norm, which today is not.
Right. Thank you for that as well. I think right on the dot in terms of encouraging a lot of the customers to really try it out and build and their experience on that so that they can provide feedback as well. There is a question that was raised also in the chat. Is there gender disaggregated data for your first time clients? I'm not sure if this is specific to any to our panelists, to a specific panelist. Would NJ or Lester have any thoughts on that one?
Okay, let me take that one. No, for us, we've not been, we've not been honestly been very particular on on the gender breakdown, and but definitely that is something that that we would be looking into, or we are looking into, as to what kind of dynamics, responses, and behavior we see depending on the gender. But I think similar to us being segment agnostic, we also want to be in this day and age gender agnostic as well, because I think the need for financial services for both men and women, maybe not for the married men, are actually the same. But that's it for us. We want to serve basically anybody
across all.
out there, right?
Yeah, and Kitch, sorry, just to build on what Lester said, uh, he's right. We should not. I mean, it's a very good question. It's a very valid question about gender disaggregation, but it should not be the primary focus as to why we should build the app. But instead, it should be about what does the underbank need? Because Lester and I are both targeting. I mean, not targeting. It's such a negative connotation, but more of we're building services for the underbanked and the individuals who are not. Who are not familiar with banking services. And
Right.
it's not about if you're a female, a male, or a married man, like what Lester mentioned, but it's instead about um, what kind of service and what kind of financial app will work best for your day-to-day needs.
All right. Thank you for that also. We also have another question from the audience. Let me just, I think we have a question from Mr. Michael. Hold on. Let me just locate him. There you go. All right. I think I just need to unmute him. Yeah. Give me a second. Okay, I think I'm just having some technical difficulties there. Shaf, I think as a host, you might be the one who would be able to unmute him.
Okay, so I've actually permitted for him to speak. So Michael, once you're ready, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Michael. Are you in the call? All right. I think while we're waiting for Michael, we also have another question from Kartik. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Yeah, Kartik, please go ahead. Uh, if you can unmute, if you would like to raise your question to our panelists.
Okay, I have a question here. Hi, uh, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, so I have a question for both of the panelists. What's the plan to open it for a foreigner? Like, the foreigners are allowed to, have accounts in your, with eCebuana, or is it only for the Filipinos?
Thank you for that question, Kartik. I'll answer for the Cebuana side. At this time, we have not. Uh, we're still bounded by the regulations to only allow Filipinos living inside the Philippines for now to open an account. But once that service becomes available to foreigners, you'll be the first. I'll make sure that you'll be the first.
Right, thank you.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
Kartik, allow me to respond as well, right? So the simple answer to your question is a big yes, right? So definitely we want to be able to open up, the same, high value, financial services to even to foreigners. First and foremost, so long as they are domiciled in the Philippines, right?
Yeah, of course.
And likewise, even for hopefully in the future, Filipinos who are actually not domiciled locally or domiciled abroad, subject obviously to to certain conduct rules and requirements in between the the domicile and countries that we're dealing with, right? And I'm spilling some of the beans here, but that's a direction that eventually we would be heading towards to. When I joined CIMB, allow me to just share, no. My boss is actually the CEO. You know, told me that that we want to be able to win awards, for whatever we're going to be building, not just in the Philippines. Right? We want our solution to be known not just locally but eventually globally. Obviously, we start with the Filipino, we start with the locals, then soon enough we will expand, and that is the aspiration. But thank you for that question, Kartik.
Yeah, we are hoping for that because sometimes people who are foreigners who are particularly staying in Philippines, they feel envy of those who are having accounts in CIMB because of the high rate of interest. So yeah, if you compare it with other traditional bank, the rate of interest is quite lower in other banks, and so that's the reason we are waiting for it. Yeah,
Thank you, Kartik, for that
thank
question
you.
and for that feedback as well. And actually, I want to build up also a bit on that question. You mentioned also about regulations earlier. Maybe Lester or NJ, you could share a bit about your journey with the regulatory bodies like with BSP or perhaps other entities in terms of making these digital services available. How has it been like, and what are the opportunities, the challenges, and the insights that you're getting?
Thank you for that question. Allow me to answer that. Working with BSP is such an amazing thing because there's a lot of regulations in place. That's true, but BSP is also very open to recommendations, to suggestions, and to feedback. And it actually is one of the things that allowed us to roll out the services that we have today. Um, the BSP governor himself, I believe, is a strong proponent of open banking. And this is something that we're really thankful for. And we're constantly working with them to enable to add more and more services as the days and the weeks go by.
Okay. Now, thanks for that, NJ. NJ, just to build on NJ's point, no, I really take my hat off to BSP's support to digital players, and more so on the progressiveness of the approach that they employ in regulating the entities that they look after. I feel that we have and I'm scared actually to to say this, especially with with the rest of the CIMB team maybe watching this. No, I feel that we have come to a point where the the only limitation or the limitation on what the banks can do today are primarily hinged on the kind of investment and technology that can be afforded and how quickly this can be built, and and last point, to the customers, how well it will be received by by the market to make it sustainable. And in CIMB, we spend an inordinate amount of time creating awareness. And again, shout out to BSP, as they have been active, and been active more than ever in promoting the digitization of financial services. Now people are beginning to understand, and I hope that more in the future, people would understand that digital banks or digital financial institutions are bound by the same rules and standards like that of any other bank. We're not any different, right? And banking is also one of the heaviest regulated industries, and that goes in the favor of the customers, right? Not the bank. We want less regulation if
For
it would be
sure.
only for our way. But on the flip side, digital banking, I would argue, is even more safe and secure. Why? No copies of documents being passed around. Forgery is prevented with the passwords, pins, biometrics, etc. Nobody has to know about your transactions, you conduct, how much you're worth, and plenty of other reasons. And that I think really very appreciative of all the efforts that that BSP and with to my home as well, CIMB, for all the efforts that they put through to to have put us this far in such a short period of time.
Right. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think it's also very important learning item in terms of understanding that digital traditional banking at the end of the day is heavily also under the purview of BSP, and while there more digital initiatives being surfaced right now, it still undergoes the very strict measures and guidance of BSP, which should also improve the confidence of a lot of the end users who are trying to explore in the digital banking space. We also have another question from the audience, from many. So, other than digital onboarding, what makes it easy for customers to onboard given the KYC requirements? So, I guess this is in line with, given that banks would still need to employ the standard KYC requirements, how does this become much more easier with the digital platform or the digital channel?
Thank you for that question, Manny. Sorry, Kitch, was that Manny?
Yeah,
So,
it's
okay.
many, yes.
All right. Thank you for that question, Manny. With In terms of building the full digital onboarding, we try to keep it as simple as possible in nomenclature and in wording that our customers would understand. Because we'd like to consider that our target market is the segment C, D, and E, which is usually the underbanked and the unbanked. And we try to keep, in terms of nomenclature, we try to keep it as simple as possible with as less screens as possible, and then of course on the offside, we're also making sure that in terms of regulation, we're meeting the 11 questions of uh, 11 question requirement of BSP. But just on this, on top of making sure that you have a good app, I'd also like to give a shout out to our marketing team and to all of the teams that are managing our Facebook and branch campaigns. Because as we are improving the app, we are also launching so many marketing campaigns. We're doing outside of the branch we're doing outside of the branch hand holding for account opening. We're also going to be doing we roll out videos, walkthrough videos, FAQ videos on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we're also educating our branch personnel to educate our customers on how to do it side by side. So this is something. So it's not just all about the app, but it's also about the consumer education campaigns that Cebuana Lhuiller has been working tirelessly on making sure our Cebuanas are able to open an account as easy as possible.
Okay, I just wanted to build on NJ's point now. I wanted to rule out two things that from an account onboarding perspective is probably not so much in the control of of your financial providers today. One is identification, right? So again, there's a whole bunch of people still in the Philippines who don't have the valid and acceptable ID. There are efforts being deployed to address that, but that's going to take time. Stable internet connection also I think is a challenge, continues to be a challenge, right? But also that is being addressed, right? I guess the next step is that the stable and reliable internet connection hopefully becomes more affordable, right? What we focus on is really in CIMB is designing the perfect user journey and the most intuitive UI UX, right? We try to minimize the number of things and details that we ask from customers. We try to make the most out of the OCR capability to allow the reading of of the words in the IDs that are presented. And the fact of the matter is users would always have something to say, however which way we make it, the UI, the UX, right? So the goal ultimately for us is to be able to develop something which works best, at least to the most number of customers possible. And I just wanted to dwell on one other point that I think we have built really successfully in the recent past. It's GSave. It's the CIMB bank account that we co-created with GCash, where GCash users are able to open the account, not even in minutes, right? But within just a few taps in the app. And then guess what? The proposition isn't even shabby. High interest, no maintaining balance, no fees, free insurance is very good, right? And these are the things that are somehow within our control, that we focus our energies and our efforts, which hopefully all the other players, again, I'm repeating myself, whether digital or not, hopefully would follow suit.
All right, thank you. Very, very healthy exchange and thoughts as well on that one, especially on, onboarding being, I guess, fairly new, because we're much more used to the traditional submission of documents, on-premise kind of verification as well. Just we have a few more questions, but just being aware of the time, we've had quite a very healthy exchange and discussion so far. I'd actually like to raise one more question, but also I'd like to see if Michael is still also in the call, if he wants to raise his question. All right, maybe he's unable to unmute his mic as of the moment. But I think as a final question for both our panelists, I'd like to understand, like, how do you imagine the new Filipino bank customer maybe 5 years from now, given all these initiatives, the emerging so-called digital economy, and where do you see CLRB or CIMB's role in that roadmap towards open banking?
All right, Lester, would you like to go ahead?
Sure. Yeah, so
please.
thank you for giving me, Keach, the privilege of giving my fearless forecast. Right, so 5 years from now,
we'll hold you on to it. We'll hold you on for it. 5 years from now. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I am not expecting majority of the population to be invested in derivatives, options, or whatever complex products by then. But I would expect to see digital banking or financial services in general become the norm, where people who want, not just those who need, basically people who want, doesn't matter who you are able to have access to financial services and are able to do it wherever they are and whichever mobile app. Again, I'm not just talking about CIMB app, CIMB app, happy to do so, right? But whichever mobile app they most frequently use. And by then, we would have achieved progress that would make all of our combined efforts here, and and then those people who are not participating in the event, our efforts today, beyond worth it, right? And I wouldn't say that the challenge is really on the digital savvy, right? I'm confident that the people, we will adapt, and our role really is to be a catalyst. Really, we continue to build, we continue to build, integrate, and open, true to the sense of open banking, no, and hopefully by then, next to savings is credit. We are taking over G Credit, by the way, in matter of days. Some of the G Credit users may have gotten some messages from us. So please do stay tuned on that one. We're presenting the idea of an even further enhancement as we power that the GCash product with maybe so soon enough and a higher credit limit and lower interest rates. So next to savings is credit. We want to provide access. If there's 71% of Filipinos who don't have bank accounts, guess how many of those who actually have access to credit? Less than 8%, right? So so if you put it in the total of population, there's probably less than 1% of the population who actually have access to credit. We want to address that, and hopefully not by 5 years from now. We're starting to address, as we speak, and obviously the insurance or the protection has to be there as well. And likewise the investment, and from the journey and from the platform that that we continue to build, hopefully we can introduce more sophistication and more services along the way to make it really a complete banking solution for again, not for the rich, not for the for the mass, but for everybody. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Lester. NJ, your fearless
Yeah.
forecast.
Thank you for that, Lester. So, for Cebuana, our fearless forecast in the next 5 years is that we're targeting to convert more and more of our brick and mortar customers to the digital space. The pandemic brought along its challenges, but it also brought along exciting times. Because now we've seen everybody shift to digital. It's now a race on onboarding as many users as possible. But in terms of what will be the next big thing in terms of banking. Lester is right. It's not about derivatives. It's not about specific investment products. But I'd like to coincide with him, to go against his tide a little bit and share with you that we believe that investment is still a viable opportunity in the next 5 years compared to credit. The primary reason for this is with being staying at home, people are no longer comfortable going to malls to spend their money, but instead are looking for ways to invest it. And this is the forefront of what we're doing with Cebuana, and actually with the Cebuana group as a whole. I actually would like to use this opportunity to plug a little bit. We actually are launching our jewelry selling platform to allow our customers to invest in jewelry, because gold is an ever appreciating product, and this is something that we see in the next 5 years, and this is something that we have on the roadmap for Cebuana. That's first. Secondly, investing in your personal future. That's why we're constantly improving our insurance products, allowing our customers to have better services in terms of personal insurances, life insurances, even insurance for their homes, insurance for their day-to-day activities, and whatnot. And then third, but definitely not the least, that we should never discount, is the ability of our customers to save, right? Before they want to spend, we should teach them to save. And this is the forefront of what the micro saving is all about. That we are not limiting you by maintaining balances, putting dormancy fees or penalties, but instead we're empowering you that even how little change you have, you can put that away for a rainy day. And this is something that I learned from Donald Duck as a kid, and would like to teach our Cebuanas and our Filipino customers as well.
Thank you for that, NJ. Very exciting forecasts from both organizations, and I think although you different strategies at some point, it's exciting to see that the Filipino customers will have options to choose from depending on where they would actually like to take on in terms of their banking and financial services, right? And yeah, I think again, we this is a very interesting discussion. I'm sure we have a lots more to talk about, but unfortunately, we're limited by the time. Nevertheless, it's been a very, very wonderful and insightful exchange and conversation. We got to see how the economy is evolving, how the consumer is evolving from pre-pandemic and in the pandemic. And I think it's very exciting and fascinating to hear how many of the financial institutions were equipped to respond, with the challenges of the pandemic, and also continue to accelerate and maybe the right word is disrupt or catalyze the traditional practices. I think banking will always be there. It's just and maybe right now it's still in transition from traditional to the digital, but ultimately, to both the points of Lester and NJ, uh, it will always continue to be for the benefit of the customer, for their financial education and literacy, and of course for their financial future as well. So yeah, with that, I think it looks like a very exciting future for the Filipinos, and we're excited to see how that materializes for in the future, and also for the fearless forecasts. We'll check in maybe 5 years from now and see, what came true or what else has surfaced from those discussions. All right. Thank you again, Angie and Lester, for your time. We appreciate your insights and your thoughts and your inputs as well. And of course, to our audience, thank you also for joining us today. Once again, I'm Crizella Zitin from Brancas. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Kit, sorry, can I have one more minute of the audience's time? Thank you
Sure,
so
sure.
much
Go
for
ahead.
thank you so much for having me. I just would like to give a shout out to the Cebuana Lhuiller digital sales team who's been working tirelessly for the eCebuana app. I invite all of our audiences to download, check out our new features, and follow our Facebook pages for eCebuana. Secondly, I'd like to announce that our Cebuana Lhuiller jewelry platform is live. That the website is cebuanalhuillerjewelry.com. And also, we have just relaunched our loyalty program. We are now allowing our customers, Cebuanas or otherwise, to open a loyalty account and acquire one of the all new 24K loyalty cards. The website for that is 24k.cebuanalhuiller.com. So yeah, again, thank you so much for having me, and very, very excited to achieve Lester and I's fearless forecast in the next five
The
years.
future is looking bright. The future is looking bright. And
Definitely,
thank you very
definitely.
Yes,
much. It's
definitely.
a privilege to have been part of this program. And thank you for all the viewers and Brancos and the
Aye,
CIMB team.
aye. Thank you again, everyone, and have a great day.
All right.
Thanks, guys.